You're listening to Talk Star Wars, a proud member of the Star Wars Commonwealth Podcast Network. Check us out on the web at starwarscommonwealth.com and take your first steps into a larger world. Hello there, and welcome back to Talk Star Wars, episode 159 from Emotionally 14. I'm Rob.
And I'm Brad.
Hello.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I feel like I've fired a can of expanding foam up my nostril. That's how I feel.
Oh,
but I'm recovered well enough to turn up and do the best UK Star Wars podcast there is.
Well, that's appreciated.
Yeah.
You know.
So I'm off to Jeddah. I'm not.
See you later. I shall be. Yeah. It's how's your week been in Star Wars world?
My week in Star Wars world. I finished reading Phasma by Delilah S. Dawson, and that was way better than I was expecting it to be. I really ended up enjoying that. I continued my timeline crawl. I redid The Perfect Weapon. Mm-hmm. It's fine. I think I enjoyed it more first time round because it was kind of at hype building up to Force Awakens, and now it's just kind of a sort of a sub Tales of a Bounty Hunters type story.
Yeah, which is fine. There's room for that.
It's perfectly fine. Yeah. I'm reading Before the Awakening at the moment. I'm about 2/3 of the way through that. I just finished up Ray's story and that. Pretty good actually. Good character stuff. I've done Finn's story and Ray's story, and they're really good character stories. It's Greg Rucka who tends to really get a handle on the characters, especially.
I'm reading his Wonder Woman stuff at the moment, actually.
Oh, awesome! Yeah, he gets a handle on characters very well.
Yes, it's good. I mean, I'm finding the intrigue more appealing than the action in the Wonder Woman stuff so far. But then that might be, as you say, because it's more character driven.
Yes,
makes sense, right?
Yeah. My daughter saw Empire Strikes Back for the first time a couple of days ago.
How was that?
She was visibly confused by the movie being different after the opening crawl.
Amazing.
Because she watches A New Hope a lot.
Yeah.
It's not uncommon for her to watch A New Hope like 3 times in a week. She really loves it, and will ask to watch Star Wars. So after the opening crawl, and then it cut to a Star Destroyer with the Pro Droids coming out of it, you could just see her going, "What?
What?"
There was like real, genuine Star Wars.
Yeah,
she
not
really
Star
was
Wars.
Confused.
Not my Star Wars. Did she set up a petition instantly? Right.
She watched it across 2 days. Okay. Because she's only 2. You know.
That's fair.
She loves Yoda. As we all do. Loves Lando as well. I mean, she's got a solo sticker book, so she recognised Lando, but she only had seen Lando as Donald Glover, but still recognised it was Lando in Empire.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah, so well done to Donald Glover, I suppose.
I guess so, yeah. He's done a good job of portraying that character.
Yeah, bits of Empire have turned up in Forces of Destiny, which she's a huge fan of.
Yes, okay.
So she was recognised Yoda and stuff like that, and she really liked it.
Good.
I took a video of her during the big reveal of Vader being Luke's father. Right. Nothing. She wasn't phased in the slightest.
No, it's almost like she's 2 and doesn't quite understand what that entails.
No, which was fine.
Yeah.
She was enjoying it, which is all you need to do with Star Wars, whatever age you are, really.
Yeah, exactly.
We went to a toy shop today.
Lovely.
Yeah,
I did too.
She looks at loads of Star Wars stuff. She was quite interested in like a Kylo Ren broadsaber toy. She was quite interested in a Rey doll, like Force of Destiny doll. It's about 10 inches tall. And in the end, she decided that the toy she really wanted was a broom. So she's obviously a Rian Johnson fan.
Clearly, I mean, she's very much, even though she hasn't seen it yet, she's very much picked up on the zeitgeist. Yeah, she's attuned to that zeitgeist. As you're sitting there thinking, these characters with powers and abilities and stuff are all well and good. But you know what? They've had it too easy for me.
Sometimes I've got to clean.
Sometimes I want to check in with the sort of slave labour janitorial staff on Planet 1%.
Yeah,
that's kind of how I see it. So
yeah. So I've had quite a Star Warsy week. How's your week in Star Wars been?
Mine has been smaller scale. I went to Forbidden Planet, which is obviously not far from my office for at lunch today, not for lunch, because obviously there's nothing there to eat. Believe me, I've tried, and it's thoroughly unpalatable. But I was looking at, admiring some of the Black Series stuff, and very thoroughly considering maybe adding Tarkin to my ranks, because that one is very, very cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I did notice there's a lot of reductions. I don't know if it's just a sale they have running, but it seemed to be specific items were very, very cheap. If I was so inclined, I could get a DJ Black Series for £5, which seems like a really good deal for a character who I didn't hate.
No, we were in the Entertainer, which is a UK discount. I don't know if it's like end of line stuff they do, but they're generally quite heavily discounted. And so, yeah, I suppose the Star Wars stuff they had was older stuff, because it was Force Awakens lightsabers and Forces of Destiny dolls. Yeah, so maybe it was just the older end of line stuff.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know. I mean, that was one part of it. I looked around all the Star Wars stuff, and I did have a look at a T-shirt or two that kind of caught my eye, but then didn't end up pulling the trigger, just because I need to really have a bit of a clear out before I justify any more purchases. And the only other thing I had a look through that. Remember I said I picked up a kid's coding book?
Yes.
About Star Wars.
Yes.
I was looking at it, and I've realised something that's I feel a little bit aggrieved by this. Now, it's a book called Star Wars, something to the effect of Star Wars Coding Projects, and
I've seen it around.
Visually, it's very obviously there's pixel art versions of the characters on the front, and it's all makes Star Wars themed games. You read the book, and then within a couple of pages, it becomes abundantly clear all the graphic assets are not part of the whole package.
Okay.
So you have to either find them elsewhere, or they did say there are libraries within Scratch, which is the language it's all sort of written in. There are libraries within Scratch that contain art assets. So I wonder if maybe there's a Star Wars library on that.
Maybe.
But it didn't mention a link where you could go directly to it or anything like that. And I'm sitting there thinking, I don't expect when I buy a £5 coding book from the works to then go and have to become a graphic designer in order to make the stuff themed on the thing on the front of the book. That seems excessive to me,
I don't know enough about coding to comment. It's not anything I know anything about, I'm afraid.
No, that's fine. But I mean, generally, it's fair to say the art and the code is done by different people. Just because obviously everybody has different talents.
Yeah.
So, the idea that
I should... one day.
Well, you've written 4 books now, so I would say that's...
I have.
Incidentally, on the subject of books, I decided today to increase the price of mine, and there's a particular reason for this. Do you remember, this is an old Crazy Train aside, do you remember an erotic fiction author? I'm not going to go into too much detail.
Yes, I know who you mean.
With the themes of sort of fantasy and sci-fi and horror and all that. You're holding up a little plastic dinosaur, which speaks very much to... Dinosaur. I realised that not only were the books until today twice the price of my book, they are the same length.
Oh, wow. Okay.
In fact, actually, Assorted Thoughts on Podcasting is 2 pages longer than the one I picked at random just to look at, because it was 17 pages, whereas Assorted Thoughts on Podcasting comes in at a very, very reasonable 19.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've raised the price on that. I figured, you know what, I can justify that if she can. Yeah. But yeah, that's just a little aside. We go a little Convey X every now and then. So it's been known.
Apologies to any listeners who hear my General Grievous as coughing in the background.
I will do my best to make sure that as few of them as possible get through the gates.
Yeah, I've apologised now, so they can cover it.
If I've apologised now, it's the Wild West.
General Kenobi.
Anyway, so
it's that kind of a show. Brilliant.
It is indeed. We've had a lot of lovely contact from our wonderful listener base.
Brilliant.
I will warn you now, there is a little Last Jedi stuff in here, but nothing.
Of course there is.
It's mainly related to the fact that we've talked about it in the last few weeks. So it's kind of been reactions to that. That's so it's
fine.
not, it's nothing.
That's right. I'm not going to cry myself to sleep over it.
I know. But you
do
that.
9 other movies we could talk about.
You do that other shallow breathing thing that I find a bit disconcerting. That's all. So we begin, as always, with thanks to wonderful listener and Knight of the Commonwealth for Suvi.
Never heard of it.
Spoiler-free Resistance Roundup. Your memory's atrocious. You only missed last week. Yeah,
but I fired a can of expanding foam at my head since then.
Oh yes, of course. Spoiler, yeah. Legal. We don't have a legal disclaimer equivalent.
Don't.
Yeah, you don't actually do that. Just to be clear. Vesuvi writes, "Deep sigh. There really isn't much I can tell you about Descent without revealing potential spoilers, especially considering last week ended with a squeaker. I think it's not. I don't think it's the product that makes noise. I think it means more of a. It's like a cliffhanger, but I think she's. Okay. Yeah. I think she's implying a certain amount of clenching might be involved with certain orify. I think it's safe to say that some characters were in a jam. One caused a distraction which got them critically injured, and most were able to flee. Only one remained captive. But that's only the prelude to the main tableau of the episode. One additional tease I can safely give you is we'll get to see the signal jammer hindering communication feeds to and from the Colossus. It's also fair game to tease that we finally get to meet a new character who was initially shown in the mid-season trailer. She's an agent of the First Order Security Bureau called Tierney. And I want to tell you so much more, but I guess you should probably wait until you see it all for yourself.
Will do.
Yeah, that seems fair enough. So, yeah, this one's a lot shorter than previous weeks, mainly because this one is a little bit more spoiler heavy. So, which is
that's fair. Yeah, she does a very good job.
She does a great job.
It's a very hard job, and she can't answer back.
Yes, indeed, and almost as if to, in her mind, perhaps atone for this. Her contribution this week in terms of listener question is a length that I can only describe as epic.
That sounds like my Vesuvi.
Indeed. So, Vesuvi writes, "Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Andy. Here's hoping Brad makes it back to us soon and feeling robust."
I am.
And how lovely to hear from Mark Godsif.
None taken.
During your addressing of my query about Luke rejoining the Resistance cause with Rey, you mentioned an even more engaging question. How was Luke able to walk away from the good fight in the first place? Indeed, from what I can determine, this is the crux of what miffed so many of the naysayers. I don't think we fully know those 30 years of accrued observations and perceptions that drove optimistic young Luke to becoming weary old Luke. I think those countless details are yet to be revealed and explored. But just on a superficial level, I can empathise with an older person who feels like they would do better to sit out the dance when others are going to continue to dance no matter what music is playing, or even if there's no music at all. I assume she means silent discos there.
I guess so.
Yeah, I can only. That's going to be what I'm going to take from that.
I can see them being big on Canto Bight, actually.
Yeah. Do you know what? Yeah. Exact. Yeah. Do you know? Now you've said that, I can't think of anything else. No one in their 50s is exactly as they were in their 20s, and to a greater degree, no one in their 60s is exactly as they were in their 30s, and so on and so on. Anyone in their 20s or 30s who thinks they'll feel and act without the benefit of experience and likely hardship when they're in their golden years are in for a Luke-sized surprise of their own in years to come. That's not to say, as with what occurred to Luke, an older person can't be reminded of former glories and youthful optimism, most particularly when they deal with young people finding their own voice and their own power. Indeed, they can. And that's another lesson of The Last Jedi. It's not just the story of the valuable lessons of failure, it's the story of giving it another go once you've regained your breath after a rest, maybe even after a very long rest. In regards to Matt's comment about the music of the new era not being as memorable, I thought long and hard about this. Oh my. Especially after The Force Awakens. Eventually I came up with a conclusion, at least as to how it pertains to my own enjoyment. In my case, during the original movies, even before they were available on home video to rewatch incessantly, I was one of those kids who purchased the soundtrack and listened to the music over and over. Repetition is how one tends to learn anything, including melody, which kicks in emotionally when superimposed over actions of the movies. With all of the newer titles, including with Rogue One and Solo, I had to listen to the soundtracks independently from the movies countless times, and now for me the new music stands out, approaching the levels of the classic era when I rewatch the newer flicks. My point being, No music sticks with you after having heard it only once or twice, or even thrice. Many adults don't have or make the time to rewatch or re-listen to the degree we did as children. But that is a way to help form emotional connections to those tunes. As kids, we took the time and effort to form and crystallize that intercourse. Oh my. Even when we didn't understand that we were doing it. So make the time in your current stage of life, perhaps while driving or doing busy work. You might reap the benefits. I also loved Matt Keegan's challenge. Here are mine, taking a cue from Hollywood's inclination towards the overly simple. Episode 1, Youngling. So do you remember this?
I do. Yeah.
Cool.
She seems to have gone down a Christopher Nolan route for these days.
Yeah, indeed. So just a quick recap for those who didn't hear last week's episode. So we had a question about what would you rename the films if you had to rename them all in a way that didn't clash with the existing titles?
Yeah,
you keep
it was
Star
really
Wars.
good. I was bummed I missed it. It was a fun one.
Matt, every now and then will just drop a question in and I just go, that's incredible.
Yeah, it was I was annoyed I missed it. It was a really good challenge.
Yeah. So Vesuvius had to go. Using, as she says, the Hollywood's inclination for the overly simple, although, as you rightly point out, it does have a certain Christopher Nolan-esque vibe to it as well. So, episode 1, Youngling. Episode 2, Formation, referring to the Clone Army's mysterious creation. Has an interesting double meaning there as well, for formation, obviously, as a militaristic term.
Yes.
Episode 3, Transmutation, regarding the Republic shifting to the Empire. Solo, Scamp. You crazy kids and your thieving.
Sure.
Rogue One, Revolt. Episode 4, Buoyancy. Yeah, that was an interesting one. Episode 5, Requital. Episode 6, Retrieval. Episode 7, Incitement. Episode 8, Eventide. Episode 9, Aurora. But if I'm being a smartass, and I usually am.
You usually are.
Episode 1, From Slave to Servant. Episode 2, Blind We Are, If Creation of This Clone Army We Could Not See. Episode 3, Showdown at the Caldera. Solo, The Player and the Game.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, that's great. That was really good. To be honest, if they'd gone with The Player and the Game for Solo, I'd have been right with that.
Yeah, totally. That's a really good one.
Rogue One, let's give this a try. Episode 4. This one's a mouthful. I might have to take a breath. Staring at a binary sunset is inadvisable according to most Tatooine ophthalmologists. So I'm just going to make a time code here because I'm going to have to say a word that I don't think is radio friendly.
You can. That's fine.
What, surprise?
Yeah.
Oh, all right, cool. Episode 5. Surprise, bitches. Episode 6.
That's radio friendly. That's fine.
Yeah, I'll double check, but I'm sure you're right.
It's fine. Kids, if it's not, grow up.
They plan to.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. Episode 6, Under the Mask. That one's good. I like that one. Episode 7, What Comes After a Happily Ever After?
Not a bridge.
No, indeed. Episode 8, A Galaxy of Squabbles. That's quite meta. Yeah, that one fits in quite nicely with the meta narrative as well. Episode 9, Wills. I don't know if that's kind of said with a, sort of 1940s film thing or like a Destiny's Child,
Yeah.
Pay my wheels.
Swing. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Hoping you all have a lovely week. Vesuvi, Knight of the Commonwealth.
She's proud of that, isn't she?
Oh, yes. I think that, she worked very hard for that. So
yeah, so that was quite a, as you say, quite a verbose one.
Yes. What do you make of the thoughts of Luke walking away from the good fight?
It is weird, but I do accept that every character has to have a breaking point. And as I parallels to Bilbo and Frodo, which people seem to
that went
agree
very
with
well
on a previous episode. So he's not the heroic Luke I wanted to see, but that's for point.
Yeah. I know what you mean. I think my only thing with it is, and this is the bit that still quite doesn't land for me. I can deal with the fact that he might feel he's too old. He might feel he's too old for the fight. I can accept that. He's in his 50s, 60s by the time this film kicks off. For me, what doesn't gel is that he's willing to walk away from a problem he would have felt responsible for.
Yeah, okay.
That's the bit that doesn't quite land. And I feel like, I don't know, it's tricky because he's obviously very impulsive in Empire, and then goes off and goes to Cloud City to rescue them. And then actually at that point, he doesn't know that he's the reason they're kind of being, he's being used.
I don't know if I dislike it or I just would like a little more explanation, whether in episode 9 or in supporting materials, is a whole idea that Luke could believe Vader still has good in him, but Kylo Ren is beyond redemption.
Yeah, there has to be something they didn't, and I think part of the problem with that is that they didn't necessarily do the best job of making Snoke a fearsome character. I think had they done that more effectively in episode 7 and 8, then you would find there would be some credibility to the idea that he couldn't compete with that level of evil or something, something to that effect. He managed to sort of talk Vader from the edge of the abyss, but that's as far as it's gone. And obviously with Palpatine being capable of engineering ultimate evil and sort of completely taking over the galaxy for his own selfish power-driven ends, it's fair to say he's a wrong 'un. I think that's not a controversial statement.
He's evil for the sake of evil, yeah.
Yeah, it's not a controversial statement to say that he's an evil character driven by dreams of power and so on.
Going on to what Vesuvi was saying about the recent scores being less effectual.
Yes.
Not you, Alexa, being less effectual than some of the more classic scores. It is purely because you've heard them throughout your whole life. So,
I don't know that one.
Alexa, shut up.
That won't help. How would you like me to shut up?
It is just because you've heard the main score so many times throughout your whole life again and again. And she's absolutely bang on. It's not just, small kids wanting to read the same book again and again or watch Star Wars 3 or 4 times a week as small kids do. It's when you were a teenager, when you found an album that you loved, you played that thing to death. And when you were a teenager and you found a film you loved, it was like the best thing ever. It wasn't just a good film. When you found a film you love as a teenager, there's something actually quite wonderful about the teenage mind frame that when you find something you love it with this all burning fire. It's not just an album. This is the best thing ever. It's not just a book. This is amazing. He's an amazing writer. You should read Vietnam Black. He's absolutely brilliant. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
nicely done. I almost missed that.
And you do lose that as you get older, as you experience more stuff. It's a real shame. And I think if there's something people should try and keep hold of from their teenage selves, and it was an inspiration behind the phrase emotionally 14 for me, was you should try and keep hold of a little bit. If you're always try and live your life so that you're in a 14 to 16-year-old would be proud to grow up to be you. And so when you find a band or a song you like, I will make an effort to binge that, to try and capture that enthusiasm I used to have, because it's very easy to lose it, especially with the wealth of choice. Now, when you were 15 and it cost you, Pink Floyd's The Wall I paid 30 quid for on CD, and now for £10 a month I can have every Pink Floyd album ever, plus every other band I could ever possibly want to listen to. I've got Netflix, I've got Marvel Unlimited, the choice is there. And maybe a little bit was you bought the thing, so you had the thing, so you enjoyed the thing.
Also the thing. Yeah, God, yeah, what a movie. So I would say to people, if you find something you like, then try and binge it a little bit. I found that with sorry, go on.
And listening to last week's episode, I couldn't agree with you guys. It was more Andy than you that saying that the new scores didn't have an impact, because I think Ray's theme is absolutely incredible. There
is some really good stuff. That my point about it was that I felt like there were fewer. in a way, it's almost easier to pick out the themes that stick with you because so much of the stuff around it is it doesn't feel as remarkable.
Yeah. I think another part of that is when Phantom Menace came out, Duel of the Fates was pushed almost like a single.
It had a music video.
And then it did. And Across the Stars was the same for episode 2 and but Battle of the Heroes was for episode 3 to a much lesser extent. And it's really not the thing anymore for a movie to have a single.
No,
I mean, we're going back it's only like, 3 or 4 years between the Celine Dion Titanic song being absolutely massive and Duel of the Fates. It's only probably like 2 or 3 years, actually, off the top of my head.
Yeah, two or three sounds exactly about right.
But that was the style of the time. Movies had singles to promote them. And Men in Black, the Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, Bryan Adams thing.
Yep.
And that's just not the done thing anymore.
No,
so,
it's not. This is
you know
true.
what? If Force Awakens was released 20 years ago, then very possibly Rey's theme or March of Resistance would have been pushed to the extent that Duel of Fates was, but that's just not the way things are done now. No,
it's true. That's a good point. I didn't think about it from that point of view. I don't know what you made of the comment I made about how it's kind of probably unfair to look at a man in his late 80s as that's the period where he's going to do his best work.
He doesn't owe anyone anything, absolutely.
I just meant from a performative point of view as well. I mean, it's just not reasonable.
He is allowed to slow down. He's allowed to coast a little. He's allowed to have a nap. Yes, absolutely.
Totally.
But I do think that the balanced out with that is the experience that he has, which is why even within his the stuff that he's done as an older man, there's still really quite inspiring and strong stuff in there.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, let's say, I don't think anybody was, I don't think anybody in part of this discussion is denying that there's some cracking stuff he's still producing. I think the thing for me is, like I say, it's easier to pick out the standout tracks in a way from the new stuff because a decent chunk of it just doesn't really land in the same way. There's lots of little bits and pieces of incidental music from Star Wars that kind of just pop around in my head. Original trilogy stuff.
Aside from John Williams, I think the Rogue One soundtrack is one of the best. That's up there with Second Empire for me.
Yeah, it's very good.
It's absolutely brilliant. And I loved most about the opening score of Rogue One is that there isn't one.
Yes.
And it was almost like for ages we were sitting there going, it's not going to feel right without the fanfare. It's not going to feel right.
The first one was jarring.
It was literally like it just went, well, I'm here, enjoy it.
Yeah, totally.
This black noise.
Yeah.
Okay, well, the soundtrack's here.
Yeah,
that was like this Stone Cold Steve Austin entrance of a score.
Yeah, I'm good with that as a general rule anyway. I'm good with anything Stone Cold Steve Austin themed. Because it's Stone Cold.
The solo soundtrack is very different, but it's a very different Star Wars movie as well. And it suits what the movie was trying to do. I like the new scores generally. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, there's stuff to like.
I think they stand alongside it.
I think we have to agree to disagree to a point on that one. I think they are good.
There's a few things in life more subjective than music, and that's
sure. But I mean, there's stuff I like about the new scores. I think Episode 8 in particular reads very much like a greatest hits of John Williams.
Yes, I do think there's a reason to that, in that I don't know that Williams really knew what to make of The Last Jedi.
Maybe.
Because there's loads of stuff. He's very good at foreshadowing. He's very good at tying Wagnerian themes together, including stuff like, obviously, the famous ones is Palpatine's theme in Phantom Menace at the end, done in a major key. Similarly, Across the Stars mirrors the main theme. And he's very good at dropping subtle motifs and hints.
Yes.
Throughout his work, and I get the feeling with Last Jedi he didn't really know what he could hint at or what he could draw parallels to, because it was a record scratch of a movie in a lot of ways, and I feel he played it safe because he wasn't quite sure where the grander story was going.
Maybe. I think also record scratches jarring for most people. For composers, they got to be the worst.
Must be.
Yeah.
Absolutely must be.
Just,
And I don't own any Star Wars soundtracks on LP. How bad is that?
Oh, on LP, I don't think I don't have any. I have digital copies of all the new ones, and I have a CD copy of Solo because it was cheaper to get the digital copy with the CD that time.
It's mad. Yeah,
sometimes I don't understand it, but sometimes that's the way. So I'll take advantage of it.
I've bought a few on CD for sure. But, I'm either LP or Spotify these days.
I've got the the Saga soundtracks on. The original Saga soundtracks on CD.
Nice.
And then
I did have Shadows of the Empire as well. Remember that, kids?
Oh yeah, that was
the orchestral soundtrack to the novel.
Yeah, I think I have that somewhere as well.
It's really good. It's almost like how Rogue One made some John Williams stuff. It was really good.
Yeah, no, it is a very good, very enjoyable one. Vesuvi, thank you for that. Especially the clear amount of effort that's gone into formulating that was very much well received and very welcome and much appreciated, as always.
Yes, absolutely.
So
always lovely to hear from you.
Our next email comes from, I think this is either a new writer-inner or somebody who hasn't written in a while.
Okay, cool.
So this is from Anthony.
Hello, Anthony.
Anthony writes, "Hi TSW." Oh, you telegraphed that really well. Yeah. So I was one of the fans who despised The Last Jedi.
Oh, that makes you 50% of the people who saw it. Awesome.
Well, he did say was as well, so I think there might be. Yeah. I think we might have got some. He might have
foreshadowing.
Exactly. Yeah. I love TFA and really, really loved Rogue One. Good choice.
Good kid. Yeah.
That's the order in which to love those.
Absolutely.
I love these movies so much that it drew me into the fan community.
Hello.
This is how I found your podcast, and it brought me much joy speculating on who was Snoke, who was Rey, had Luke turned, what was he up to. I also loved Rian Johnson at the time. Looper was one of my all-time faves. Star Wars was bringing me joy.
Yeah, we were.
When The Last Jedi came out, I hated it.
Fair enough.
I pretty much left the fan community.
Right.
I ignored Star Wars and didn't even see Solo until it was on iTunes.
That makes you 50% of the people who saw it.
Yeah, well, in this case. Other download services are available. Not out of spite for Disney. Other production companies are available. I just genuinely lost interest because I thought all the coolest, interesting questions about the new characters had been destroyed, and this annoyed me. But I think negativity had blinded me. Well, that's unfortunate. After about a year's hiatus, I couldn't help but check in to see what was happening with Episode 9. I was getting excited again. It began as buying into how will JJ fix the series, and I was back theorizing about Kylo's force projections, Palpy.
He doesn't like being called that.
No, they've tried it. There's a deleted scene that not many people have seen of Revenge of the Sith where somebody's like, "Yo, Palpatine is, what did you just say?"
Yeah, somehow a better name than Sheev.
Yeah, well, I mean, the story group moves in mysterious ways.
It does, yes. Sometimes it doesn't move at all.
Indeed. So, Kylo's force projections, Palpy, Obi-Wan's role. Is Luke really dead? How could JJ undo the mess? Excited, I tried to watch The Last Jedi again to figure it out. It didn't go the way I thought. It was like a full 180. I loved it. Granted, you have to basically fast forward the whole Finn Rose subplot and Space Mary Poppins. I think at that point it's hard to say loved it. You have to fast forward.
I misread that at first. It's like at first you have to ignore that and you have to Space Mary Poppins. I was like, that's a logistical nightmare.
It seems extreme. Cool, blimey trousers.
TSW doesn't have a space program.
No, this is it.
I'd like to think I've got a shot with Emily Blunt if we ever meet her. This is no way to do this.
Well, she likes bearded funny men, so you know.
Yeah. But I'm not sure that catapulting her into the sun is a way to get anywhere.
I think there are nicer ways to build rapport.
Yeah.
I think that's fair to say.
You could have just swiped right.
Well, I did, just on a much larger scale.
Oh, you keep making me go Grievous.
Sorry.
That's fine.
I'm not sorry.
I
like making
if I'm going to die by one of your jokes, I guess it was always going to end this way.
There was always a high chance of this. The more we got to know, the longer we've known each other.
Yeah.
I'm still kind of shocked, and I'm stoked that I now have a new hope for the series.
Oh, we've already done that, mate.
Yeah, we had to rename that. I forget what we called it. On reflecting, I think we who criticised The Last Jedi forgot it was the middle act of a trilogy and instead unfairly judged it as if it were the last. We're all missing something. Once you change your point of view on the film from one of the films needing to answer those questions to informing the question itself, you realise it doesn't matter if you didn't find out who Snoke was yet, who Rey's parents are yet. There are clues all the way through the movie about the answers to these. Kylo was lying. The whole bloody thing is one big misdirection.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan knew what he was doing, and so does JJ. It even says JJ was an executive director on The Last Jedi. They have a plan and are in this together. He is not fixing or course correcting. They're on course. It wouldn't surprise me at all if they had the whole thing planned out from the start. It would surprise me. I reckon it's like in the movie The Prestige. The Last Jedi was the misdirection, and the trick is hidden underneath. Get ready for the payoff, and now JJ has the ability to actually surprise people because Ryan took one for the team. Oh my. Hoping the same thing happens with Solo after a year, but not holding my breath. Anyway, I'm just stoked I'm back into Star Wars again. Would love to hear what you think. Also, Snoke could be... Right, brace yourself for this.
Okay.
Snoke could be Hux's force projection. Seriously, watch it.
You watch it.
Unnecessarily combative. Much love. Anthony.
It's only like the movie The Prestige in that Andy Serkis is in it.
I don't think that's what he means. I don't think that's it.
I mean, what a switch would it be? That the best thing Episode 9 could do would be to reintroduce David Bowie into continuity.
Oh, do you know, that would be lovely, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't it be? It's just like he was winding us up all this time just so he could make a surprise appearance.
Not only was he from space.
Yeah, he's made a surprise appearance as Obi-Wan.
So, Anthony, I'm pleased to hear that you have found something to enjoy about The Last Jedi. Yes. I cannot go as far as he has in terms of how much he has changed his point of view on this. Mm-hmm. For me, it reads... and I don't mean this... a lot of the stuff I read of this nature... I don't want to single Anthony out, you see. A lot of the stuff I read of this nature reads like...
He singled us out. He wrote to us.
Yeah, no, I realise that. But that's... we encourage that, whereas he hasn't necessarily said that he wants us to do that. So my feeling of it when I read stuff of this nature, where people have had these big 180s and they've, it reads like there's a certain desperation is a really strong word for it, but there's a certain desire to overlook things because you feel like you should. Does that make sense?
Okay, absolutely.
It's the idea that the people who criticise The Last Jedi forgot it was the middle act of a trilogy. I don't swing with that. I think that people understand perfectly well that it's the middle act of a trilogy. It's just that, I suppose the benefit of hindsight, obviously Empire Strikes Back, most of us would have seen it shortly before Return of the Jedi rather than having to wait 3 years.
I think that's fair to say, yeah.
Yeah, so, most of us would have not had to wait too long to find out the answers to some of these. But then I don't think there were that many loose threads in Empire. There's only really one big one. And there's who's the other, and is Vader telling the truth?
Is Vader lying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which it could be.
Oh, and obviously what's going to happen to Han.
Yeah, which is fair. But I mean, obviously at that point that was meta because they didn't know either.
And I was having just rewatched Empire this week. And it's my understanding that even at the time Empire was released, it wasn't confirmed that Harrison Ford was going to come back.
Absolutely true, which is why Billy D. Williams is wearing a similar outfit to Han in the
But if he hadn't have come back, that would have been bloody weird.
Yep.
It's almost like they wrote it in such a way to make him want to come back.
I mean, possibly, yeah. I mean, even just to kind of give his character a send-off.
Just imagine that universe in which Harrison Ford is not in Return of the Jedi. It's just fobbed off.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he must have... Yeah, Boba Fett's got him. Tough luck.
Boba Fett covers his tracks so well that they just lost his trail.
His life debt counts for nothing, apparently.
Yeah, exactly. Chewie's just like, easy come.
So weird.
That would be weird. This is true. So let's say I don't say this just to kind of to sort of rag on Anthony, because ultimately, like I say, he's taken his time to write to us, and I'm pleased that he is.
I'm sure he's able to understand that it's a general statement.
Of course, yeah. And in the same way, I feel like there's this desire to read things in that aren't necessarily there.
Yeah.
There's a bit of the idea that there are loads of clues peppered throughout the movie Kylo lying, I mean, maybe. That might be how they address it in episode 9. That may not have been the original intent. I don't, for example, believe that Ryan and JJ are that closely knitted on everything. I think they probably they probably both got a steer of what the other one's going to do and where they're going to set stuff up. But I think that's as far as it's going. I'd be very surprised if they've gone to the trouble of, writing the entire.
I'm looking forward to reading the making of these movies 10 years from now.
If they even release them. I mean,
there'll be interest.
There'll be interest, but in terms of will there be willingness to share is the question, I guess.
Maybe.
Yeah. And, obviously nowadays with everything being with people having to be so careful with how they address these issues in kind of press stuff. I mean, I don't know if you saw, there's lots of, I didn't really read into it too much because it just read like clickbait designed to kind of stir up drama. But there was some comments from Mark Hamill about, I think it kind of read like the gist was that he was kind of a bit put out by the fact that he only had one film to really exist.
I saw the articles go around.
Yeah, I can understand if that's true. But I don't know. There was some sentiment that it was, out of context or it was misquoted. I don't necessarily know how true that is. Like I say, I didn't do a lot of reading into it. I was mainly trying to avoid articles about that stupid chicken head woman. My mo, to be clear, not just some random American housewife or something. But I was mainly trying to avoid that for the last week because I was already sick to the back teeth of that last week, and it's only gotten worse.
Yeah,
thankfully, it seems to have eased off now. It seems to have just gone away.
It blew over quicker than fidget spinners. I couldn't believe it.
Very quick. I do have a theory about something that may cause it to pop back into circulation, but that's a story for another time. Maybe we can discuss it.
Halloween costumes.
Well, I was thinking. Well, I'll bring it. I'll talk about it then. I read an article from the BBC about the creator of the original doll from which all the pictures stemmed, and there was a picture of him alongside somebody wearing a face mask, and that I could see being something that would cause it to pop back up again if people started ordering those masks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it would become like the clown thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where people would just kind of stand in streets and creep people out as they passed and stuff.
It was a weird old year, 2016.
It was. It certainly was. If it wasn't clowns, it was celebrities just dropping like flies.
It was like 48% of the population decided they wanted to keep David Bowie, and 52% of the population decided they wanted random clowns on the corner instead.
That would be
that was 2016, guys.
Yeah.
That was 20. If you missed 2016, it was that.
Well said. So, Anthony, as I say, I don't say these things to disparage your experience. I'm really pleased that you're back into it, especially if it means you're going to give us more of your listening time. We appreciate it very much. Thank you. Our next one is from Matt. Now, Matt is a regular writer-inner, and he has taken to writing in again, as is his wont. Hello again, team. Hope everything is well for you all. During the week, I've been working away and have been replaying Knights of the Old Republic 2. One of the key party members is a character called Mandalore, someone attempting to bring all of the shattered clans back under one banner again before they were defeated by Malak and Revan. It got me thinking, what if the Mandalorian TV show is setting us up to see someone take the title of Mandalore again, reunite the clans spread through the galaxy, and they become the new threat to the Republic in a post-Episode 9 world? The Mandalorians are infamous for their wars through the galaxy, and what a fantastic way to get them into the movies with the TV show as a springboard. It could help to make them sympathetic to the viewers as well if we're cheering on Pedro Pascal's character to succeed in whatever their goals are. I'm extremely excited for everything coming to us in the future of Star Wars. The positive far outweighs any negatives, I feel. All the best to you all, and take care. Matt. What do you make of that? The idea that we might see
for all of that. Sounds a good idea to me.
It sounds good, right? It's, the idea of going down the Mandalore route, maybe Pedro Pascal is that Mandalore kind of, that aspiring reuniter of clans. We don't really get much of a sense of what happened to the Mandalorians between Rebels and Force Awakens, do we?
No, not absolutely. Well,
so
no, not at all.
No, and the timeline for this, I think, is kind of. I think I remember seeing 6-7 years after Jedi.
Mandalore is between Jedi and Force Awakens for sure.
Yeah,
I think it's closer to Jedi than it is to Force Awakens.
Yes, I think it's.
But that's somewhere, like a 30-year gap. So
I think it's 6-7 years. I remember seeing roughly as a sort of as a steer.
Yeah, that, off the top of my head, that sounds right.
Yeah, and then. Interestingly enough, he mentions Knights of the Old Republic too. There was a news story this week about Chris Avellone, I think his name is, who was involved in KOTOR and is working on Fallen Order. So that's quite encouraging.
Yes.
Yes, he's heavily involved with the story. I guess he worked for BioWare at the time. Although, no, well, hang on. Would that have been trying to think if KOTOR 2 would have been Obsidian. Yes, it would.
I don't know. It's not my forte.
I believe that would have been Obsidian. So he would have been working for
Obsidian. I don't think I played KOTOR 2.
I don't think I ever got very far into it. With KOTOR 1, I got right to the end and then got stuck on the Darth Malak battle. So never quite finished that one off because he was nails. And I feel like all of the hundreds of hours I'd invested in the game had been setting me up to have the wrong powers at the end.
Okay.
But that was all my choice. So I can't really complain there, you know? So... Yeah, I think the possibility of Pedro Pascal playing that kind of Mandalore style uniter might well be, you know, might well be a way they go for. The other possibility they might do is have him as a kind of outlier, and everybody else is trying to unite around him, and maybe he's the one. Maybe he's the one who's kind of the holdout that doesn't actually want to join up. You know, the don't join kind of.
I went straight to, wouldn't it be great if he was like the dude in Big Lebowski and just like the whole plot happens around him and he's completely oblivious to it?
There you go. Yeah, that'd be kind of fun. And generally speaking, how do you feel about the future of Star Wars?
Broadly?
Yeah.
Pretty positive.
Okay.
It's a weird thing to say, but I'm actually more intrigued about what we're going to do after Episode 9 than I am hyped for Episode 9 at the moment.
I would agree with that.
Because Episode 9, I'm like, well, we're going to wrap up Rey's story, we're going to wrap up Finn's story, Kylo Ren's going to die, and we're going to wrap up Rey's story. And
otherwise, we don't know.
But beyond Episode 9, it's just such a blank slate.
Yes.
They could do... Yeah, I don't know if we're even ever going to do stories beyond Episode 9 in the timeline. Yeah. They may just fill in the gaps or go Old Republic or whatever, but just whatever they're planning to do after Episode 9 is what excites me far more than Episode 9 does.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree.
I was really not fussed for Episode 3 going into a cinema, and it became my favourite Star Wars movie. So Episode 9 may well make my head explode and be the best thing ever. So we'll wait and see.
It may well be a good choice, you know, for exactly that reason. It's the one I'm really interested to see more about, because we've had absolutely nothing about it, is what's going to become of the project of Benioff and Weiss. Because I have a feeling, it's been sort of dawning on me over time that Game of Thrones starts in April. It's going to run for about 10 weeks.
Okay.
So probably by July, August, we might well start hearing something about what's next.
Okay.
And that's, you know, one of the things on their docket is a Star Wars.
Absolutely, yeah.
Series of films, two or three we've heard.
All three begins, sure.
Yeah. I mean, entirely possible. I mean, Phoebe Waller-Bridge is starring in the second series of Fleabag, so I think she's going to be too busy for...
I need to catch up with that. I saw the first 2 episodes and for some reason didn't finish it.
I never got into it. Mark was always a big fan. He sort of spoke very highly of it when we used to talk about, obviously, her casting in Solo. And, you know, I think she does a good job in Solo. So, you know, I'm sure she does a good job in that as well. It's very, you know, I hear it spoken of very highly in that regard. So, you know, I'm sure it's very good. So, yeah, Matt, thank you for that. I say, it's perfectly cromulent. I think it makes perfect sense for that to be a story they can explore, and I would be quite happy to see that. Absolutely. So our next email comes from a wanderer who has come back to us, Brad. Mr. Desperado himself. Hey! Diecast Desperado. DD, you're back. Greetings, gents. I'm back. You are right on. You're right on with the telegraph.
I am. I bet he was bored with Star Wars and took a break.
I'm not going to let you read anymore. I'm just going to keep reading that. I was bored with Star Wars and took a break for a couple of months.
Hey! I bet Resistance action figures got him back into it.
Shut up. So I made myself laugh far more than I should have. All right. It was seeing the Resistance action figures finally coming out and watching the disappeared episode. Okay, I'm back in the room.
I'm not doing anything.
I know. It's like, I'm making myself laugh now.
Well, was your bracelet on?
It was seeing the Resistance action figures finally coming out and watching. So that was just kicked in as well. It was seeing the Resistance action figures finally coming out and watching the disappeared episode that rekindled my love of Star Wars. I watched the first 6 episodes of Resistance, but the series seemed to get bogged down by filler material, and I stopped watching at that point. I was able to jump right back with the disappeared and feel like I didn't miss a beat. With this episode, the series is finally living up to my expectations.
That's good.
I listened to the last 2 episodes of Talk Star Wars and really enjoyed them. In regard to Phoebe's great question, I have a thought about The Last Jedi. One of the things that didn't sit well with many fans was Luke deciding to kill Ben in his sleep. This was clearly Luke acting out of fear. We've never seen Luke act that scared before. Luke was even willing to confront Vader and Palpatine, knowing that it could cost him his life. I think the way to fix this is to make it that Luke's actions were influenced by Snoke messing with his mind through the Force. Remember that Snoke was very, very powerful with the Force. You're right.
That was just the idea of it. It was a phrase, messing with him, in reference to the 2 most powerful beings in the Force in the galaxy.
just playing silly buggers with each other.
Just Snoke just putting a bucket of water above Luke's bedroom door.
Now I'm imagining this really elaborate prank YouTube channel. Just, hello, it's Snoke here. Today, Luke's having a nap on the couch, and I'm going to put his hand in a bucket of water. The robot one, so it'll rust.
Instead of coming into Ben's bedroom with a lightsaber, it was just an air horn.
Yeah. Then the following week, Snoke's on there just going, so I've had a lot of comments about I could have put the other hand in, and he would have wet himself, but I did. That's just juvenile. I say now it's just like a game of intergalactic one-upsmanship just for channels.
That's just a phrase, messing with him.
Yeah,
brilliant. Fix his wagon. Yeah.
Remember that Snoke was very powerful with the Force, and he was able to connect Rey and Kylo through the Force without them even knowing it.
Correct.
So he could have been influencing Luke's mind without him knowing it. I'd love to hear what you gents think about this. Okay. May the Force be with you, Desperdoo. So,
there's a PS there.
There is a PS there. If you haven't watched Birth of a Monster yet, I highly recommend that you do. I looked into this. It's available on YouTube. It's a fan film.
Is it good to the thing?
No, it's a fan film, but apparently it's very good.
Okay, I'll check that out.
Yeah, I think I've got a link. I can shoot it over to you after we record.
Yeah, I enjoy some fan films, but I don't. It's not a field I keep up with. So
no, indeed.
You have to directly recommend them to me, or I miss them.
Yes, well, I think we got the last recommendation we got was the Vader fan film, which was pretty good, I would say.
Okay.
So, bearing in mind, we've established that messing with him in this is not one-upping YouTube pranks.
Yeah.
More's the pity.
I mean, I like the idea loosely in that it makes Snoke more significant than he currently is. But I don't know necessarily that he'd be that direct.
Okay.
I'm open to the idea of Snoke being more involved in the overall story, I guess, but I don't know that Luke could be influenced that way. I think a lot of times I struggle is I just think of Snoke and Kylo Ren as weaker than Sidious and Vader.
Mm. Well, I think part of the story.
A large part of that is various canonical sources indicating that they're significantly weaker than Palpatine and Vader, but that's just me.
Yeah.
And so the idea of this Sainsbury's Basics Palpatine being able to Jedi mind trick Luke Skywalker for a protracted number of years to the extent of him trying to kill a relative. I don't know. No, I like the idea of Snoke being more involved, but I'm not sure how.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Good, that's how Skype works.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely encouraging for the purposes of audio format. On the other hand, Palpatine was able to cloud the judgment and the force wielding ability of the entire Jedi Order and manipulate an entire galaxy into shifting in a way that benefited him personally.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel outside the realm of possibility that one powerful dark side user would be able to obfuscate
maybe
one powerful force user and one trainee.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
And also, it gels quite nicely with what Leia says in The Force Awakens about how Kylo was kind of corrupted by Snoke, and that they're kind of blaming themselves for what happened, and actually Snoke was kind of nefarious and going on behind the scenes. I don't think they explored that enough in Last Jedi.
I agree.
You kind of obviously you can acknowledge that he linked the minds of Kylo and Rey without them being aware that something was that they were kind of being manipulated into that position. And he was obviously able to be kind of outwitted in the end by his apprentice. But like I say, for me, it doesn't feel outside the realm of possibility that a user who's that powerful in the Force, who's been able to kind of stay relatively off the radar for the most part. Let's say Leia knows of him, so clearly he's a figure of some import in some context, or that's never really established as to how that happens. It doesn't feel outside the realm of possibility that he could have had a kind of, been just kind of representing a kind of nagging doubt in Luke's ear. Yeah. That's, the sort of the monkey on his back, as it were.
Yeah, I'm down with that. That works, actually.
I definitely agree with you that it would be nice to see him more tied into the films in Episode 9 kind of retroactively, even if that's through some sort of, some sort of grand plan.
Exposition is fine.
Exposition works, yeah. But in terms of, in what form that takes, I mean, in terms of, whether that's a grand plan of his that's kind of still churning away in the background. Like, what's the name of Palpatine's plan that you start enacting in Battlefront 2, sorry?
Cinder.
Cinder, thank you. So something like that's maybe a sort of contingency that he's kind of planned for some of these things to a point, but maybe he didn't expect Kylo to be the one to sort of dispatch him, but then he's kind of made plans for his own dispatch.
Man, I really want to play Battlefront now.
I think I probably will at some point soon as well, because my understanding is the campaign's not very long.
The campaign's not long and is worth doing.
Yeah, I should do it at some point, because mainly because I had the...
As a Star Wars fan, there's just enough chrome and stuff to keep it interesting for you.
Yeah.
And I actually came out of it really liking Inferno Squad as characters as well, and kind of wishing there was more material for them.
Besides, it's the game and the book currently, right?
That's the only stuff I'm aware of, yeah. And just give me another book maybe, or make him for Legion.
That might work. That worked quite well, actually. Yeah. Desperado, always lovely to hear from you.
Always lovely to hear from you.
Especially after such a protracted absence, Yeah. Obviously you're free to do that, but, we only get sad. So, please don't do it too much.
You brighten our lives.
That's all I'm saying. Our next email comes from Derek in a similar vein, because Derek is also lovely to hear from. And it's been a little while in his case as well.
Cool.
So Derek writes, hello again. You guys just continue to create excellent content.
Yeah, we do.
Andy from Retro Inc. was really on top of his game. Kudos. He's very, very good.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. First, please note that I did not initiate this round of discussion about the Holdo Maneuver. That would be Mr. Gilbert from episode 158. Noted. I know he's fond of the Holdo Maneuver. Next, for those who find the Holdo Maneuver problematic, I offer this abbreviated version of my normal explanation. Lucky punch. Here is the full apologia. I concede. It appears Rian Johnson didn't...
Stop it.
Stop it. I concede, it appears, Rian Johnson didn't give much thought to the issue. Also, I agree that the EU already contains defensive mechanisms and manoeuvres that should have prevented the act. However, there's precedence for the strategy under George Lucas's direct supervision. Reference The Clone Wars Series 1, Episode 19. So this one is Anakin, I think, flies a starfighter through another ship.
Yeah.
Yeah. In The Last Jedi, the First Order demonstrates tactical incompetence. Reference Captain Kennedy's 5 bloody minutes ago comment. I forget the full quote for that one, but it's basically, we need to scramble the tyres 5 bloody minutes ago.
Yeah, vaguely.
Yeah, something along those lines. In The Last Jedi, Hux displays gullibility, referencing the Hugs discussion with Poe. That, I know Derek's absolutely right there. As a quick aside, that is one of my least favourite parts of the movie. Because it's so Marvel. Yeah. It's very Marvel, and it's very not great Marvel. It's probably the weakest bit of Thor Ragnarok as well, that first beginning sort of 5 minutes where it's Thor
spinning around chatting to Surtur.
Yeah, that just kind of felt a bit ropey to me.
It's Clancy Brown.
No. Sorry, yeah.
Star Wars.
Oh, okay. And so Hux displays gullibility, the Hux discussion with Poe, and arrogance. Reference the dismissive, pathetic comment after being warned about what Holdo was preparing to do. Therefore, it's not unreasonable to assume Holdo just got lucky. She caught Hux and the First Order off guard and unprepared. This simple explanation holds the universe together and does not require a suspension of Star Wars logical canon. I don't offer this opinion to convince anyone, and yes, I am guilty of trying to make something I like work, in quotes. But if my explanation is supported with solid reasons, I don't see anything inherently wrong with doing this. Ultimately, art is subjective, so it's okay if people don't like the Holdo Maneuver, but at least I know why I like it. Until next time, Derek in Denver, Colorado. P.S. Hearing from Mark was fantastic.
None taken.
P.S. With so many landmark Star Wars events this year, i.e. Celebration, Galaxy's Edge, live action, animation, and of course, the final Skywalker installment, any chance we get a landmark TSW family reunion? I almost said financial reunion for some reason. I'm not even sure where that came from.
I don't know what that means.
No, indeed. So a landmark TSW family reunion with all former hosts. Fingers crossed. So do you want to address this one piece by piece?
Sure.
So for the Holdo Maneuver, I've never really disagreed with Derek's points on this. My thing is, I don't know.
It's crap. It's just crap.
It asks more questions than it answers for me. That's kind of where it ends up landing. It makes me think why, if I can accept, especially with the Clone Wars as a kind of reference, that this has been done in universe before.
Yeah.
What's to stop one X-Wing with one droid flying straight through the middle of the Death Star?
It's more the fact that it just steamrollers over the entire concept of gravity wells. You're going to tell me that massive, the First Order Star Destroyer that looks like a proper one that's been sat on, you're going to tell me that didn't generate a gravity well that would prevent a ship from jumping into hyperspace directly in front of it?
It does seem odd. You can tell me there's
not a single interdictor in that fleet?
It does seem odd.
It's rubbish. I'm really glad some people like it, but they are enjoying it through the use of a shoehorn. It doesn't hold up.
Hold up.
No, I understand why it's in the movie. I kind of wish it could have been done better.
Visually very impressive.
Visually impressive.
Audio-wise, very impressive.
Yeah, it does go against previously established canon and smashes through it at light speed. But,
how do you mean?
Well, the whole gravity well thing. You shouldn't have been able to jump to hyperspace.
A gravity well still established canon in the films and kind of TV, or is it just?
But you certainly need to be so far away from a planet before you can.
Well, yeah.
Jump to hyperspace. So interdictors are in Rebels.
True. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So there is a precedent for that. I just wanted to.
Yeah.
establish that.
Yeah, so that's my understanding anyway.
Okay.
I'm willing to be corrected, which is a dangerous thing to say on the podcast. Yeah, no, I'm not down with the Holdo Maneuver. It's, as you've said many times before, it completely invalidates the bulk of all space combat sequences in the Star Wars saga.
Well, say, especially as you've got...
Oh, the Death Star's under construction. Why can't we just fire a GR-75 at it at light speed then?
Yeah. That's kind of my main
you could
thing
have fired the Outrider through it, Yeah. It's
that's canon. So there you go.
Yeah, I understand why it's in there narratively. I just kind of wish... But that ship's fired off and it knocks out a load of Star Destroyers. But what happens after that? The fleet is still being chased by a load of Star Destroyers. What
did it really achieve as well?
That's my point. It's okay, well, everyone's gotten onto a smaller amount of ships, still being pursued by, these Star Destroyers that have been sat on. It's just... You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
It doesn't achieve anything apart from Poe Dameron's character arc, is what it does. And there must have been, if they'd gone back a couple of drafts earlier, there must be, or a couple of drafts further, maybe there must have been a better way of doing that.
I mean, that's entirely possible. I guess we'll never really truly know for sure. Again, maybe in 10 years we will get the behind the scenes stuff.
It didn't ruin my love of Star Wars. It didn't ruin the movie for me, but I do think it's.
Not a fan. I think, fair to say.
I think in a few years' time we will be ripping out of the Holdo Maneuver in the same way we rip other stupid plot moments, like Obi-Wan not remembering C-3PO and R2-D2.
Yeah.
There would just be one of those, hang on, why doesn't he? And we'll be looking at the Holdo Maneuver in 5 years going, hang on, how did that work? And it doesn't really matter. We just stick around and watch Wizards in Space.
Well, yeah, sure.
It's not a clever thing. It's a really stupid thing.
I think there's a few things in Last Jedi. And as I say, this is, as we always have to caveat, I don't hate it and I don't dislike people who like it, and I'm good with people. As Derek rightly points out, art is subjective.
Yeah, so I like Last Jedi fine.
Yeah, same. There are a few things in the film that are kind of cool looking things or cool things that don't necessarily work.
Yep, I agree.
In the same way, and there's a bit of that, and I think there is, like I say, I do feel there's this desire to. Derek used apologia. I think that's a strong way of putting it. I don't think people are apologizing for the film, but I do think there is this kind of. I get this certain vibe that some people feel kind of compelled to defend it because it's Star Wars.
Yeah.
Whereas
rather just saying you don't have to like every Star Wars story.
No, and I feel like if it was DC Comics The Last Jedi, it would be ripped left, right, and center every day of every year.
Oh, very probably.
Yeah, because I do feel like, not to go too deep into the whole, discussion around Marvel and DC and how they're treated, but I think if it was not attached to Star Wars,
if it was a sci-fi movie,
if it's just in a sci-fi movie, if it had been in Valerian, City of a Thousand Planets, or something like that, it would have been ripped up and down constantly.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
Yeah, and I think with Star Wars, there's this a certain level of kind of, and I think it's involuntary protectiveness. Some people feel, I think a lot of people tie their hobbies and their interests and stuff like that into their personality to the degree that they take anything other than complete and utter abject praise for a person. They take it personally.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing to keep in mind is they're pieces of art made by directors, businesses, for the purposes of entertainment and profit generation. They don't owe us anything, and we don't owe them anything. In similar, in the same vein, we don't. They owe us nothing, and we owe them nothing. We are, we're there we can choose to love something or not love something as we see fit, and they are free to make it for person X, person Y, or not, and that's up to them. And certainly in terms of monetary wise, the market will will tell them how that works out.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't feel that compulsion, and it's not because I don't enjoy the films and I don't feel that, I don't like them. It's because I don't attach. They're not my personality. Mm-hmm. They are part of my interests and my hobbies and things that I care about clearly very much. Otherwise, I wouldn't do this every week. I just wouldn't. Mm-hmm. But
that would leave me very lonely.
Well, we'd find something else to do. Let's be clear.
I guess so.
But I wouldn't do this every week if I didn't enjoy these things. I didn't consider them an important part of my hobbies and interests. But that is all they are. They're not my entire life. Mm-hmm. And as a result, I don't feel this kind of attachment to them to the degree that somebody is attacking my Star Wars. I must defend.
Star Wars is very much a part of my life and philosophy and interests and friendships, but I think I'm just. It can bring back to the teenage thing. I think when you're 13 and someone tells you your favourite band sucks, that's offensive to you. When you're in your mid-30s and someone tells you your favourite band sucks, you're like, all right, whatever.
And maybe you find ways to agree with them.
Yeah, but
I'm sure
that's how I feel about Star Wars. It's like, when I was a kid, if you told me Star Wars sucks, then I probably would have thought you were expletive deleted. But and now if someone tells me I think Star Wars sucks, I'm like, well, okay, that doesn't affect my life in the slightest.
No, indeed. You're still allowed to like it. Nothing
the fact you don't like The Last Jedi doesn't change how I felt about it or how person X over there felt about it.
Exactly.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
You don't have to be personally offended by someone not liking a movie you like, is what I'm saying.
No, totally, indeed. And by the same token, people who didn't like something also don't have to be personally offended by the fact it didn't land for them. There's some of this kind of problem's a strong word, but there's some of this behaviors are really, again, it's kind of quite a loaded term in that context, but there's some of this kind of way of seeing the world everywhere across the range of opinions, because there are people who kind of take it as there are tree houses on all sides is kind of what I'm, there are people who sort of want to defend it to the hilt, and there are people who want to tear it down, and there are people who, I'm sure there are people who want to tear it down under the guise of keeping it protected and so on. And ultimately I kind of just tune them all out and just get along with Wizards in Space, as you rightly pointed out. So, Derek, there's not really... Well, there is an answer to one question, because there wasn't really a question in here as such. There is an answer to the postscript. When we have a teaser, Mark will be back to talk about it. Said this way back when. This was discussed, on his last episode. This was something that was discussed. It's still the case. That is up to Lucasfilm when that happens. And, with every passing week, I sort of feel like, what have we done? Has Mark upset them? I don't know. But in terms of the other hosts, I don't know, but I get the sense that is something that's unlikely to occur. But I've been wrong before.
Hey, you got me and Rob now.
Exactly. I've been wrong before once or twice. I don't tend to note it down, but it's definitely happened at some point, I'm fairly sure. But
I can't think of anything.
No, I'm sure there are, but I say it would be... I don't tend to put a lot of really kind of strong stuff out there, so I suppose that's probably,
Yeah, possibly.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, as they say.
Yep.
But in terms of...
Never heard someone turn that into a positive before.
Fences are bloody comfy, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So in terms of TSW former host, Mark will be back when there are teasers, things like movie, after episode 9 comes out, that sort of thing. There will be opportunities to organise that stuff. That has been, like I say, that was discussed way back when. That's still the case. There's no reason for that not to be the case currently. The other hosts, never say never. But at this stage, I'm not. I would be inclined to think
pleasantly
not.
surprised.
Yeah, exactly. I'd be inclined to think not. But as I say, stranger things have happened. Season 3 coming July.
Yes.
But there we go. We had a bumper load of questions this week. Really good.
We did well.
Yeah, we've done well. We've heard from a lot of some of our lapsed heroes, as it were, people who have been in touch in the past and come back. And then, as I say, I think Anthony is at the very least of a lapsed writer if not a first time. So and what's really nice actually as a little aside, not really related to anything particularly significant, but it's really nice to see people using the podcast at emotionally14.com email address in lieu of the talkstarwars.co.uk one, because as I mentioned last time round, for some reason that should be working and isn't. So podcast at emotionally14.com or talkstarwarsinfo@gmail.com if you've still got that in your frequently used contacts will still work.
Or Twitter, that works.
Twitter also works, yep. Don't tend to get a lot of questions through there. Tend to get a lot more. We tend to get feedback about the show, but not so much in the way of questions, apart from the Commonwealth question of the month, which is then forwarded via email by Grabs, who's very helpful in that respect.
Cool.
Yeah. But there you go. That's Talk Star Wars for this week. It's one of those weeks again where news has been a little thin on the ground. Not really, we're still 6 months out.
What can you do?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're still 6 and a bit months out from episode 9.
Yeah.
There is still no teaser. There is still no title. I can't imagine it going to be much longer. But I say that often. And
there might not be a teaser.
Who knows? They might just...
That might be the sucker punch.
Oh, man. Would that be ballsy? Just putting a movie out with no promotional material.
If any movie can do it.
Yeah, totally.
It's not Solo.
I totally agree. I think if one movie can do it, it probably is episode 9. Obviously, the title would have to be in there, but
Nope, I don't think they will. I think they're just going to call it Star Wars, and it's going to come out with no fuss whatsoever, and it will still be bigger than the biggest movie ever made.
I think Endgame would have something to say about that.
Yes.
Or indeed Avatar, which is still number 1 with a bullet. I think they at least fire one bullet, don't they?
I seem to remember Michelle Rodriguez having a large minigun attached to her dropship.
That sounds like her style.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I'm so fond of her.
Yes, it's one of many.
Yeah, totally. So there you go. So that's Talk Star Wars for this week. Yeah, I think that's fair. But that's Talk Star Wars for this week. So thank you very much for listening. If this is your first episode and you want to subscribe, then we would encourage that readily. And
absolutely, it keeps the lights on.
Yes,
indirectly.
Indeed. You can do so via iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and all good podcasting platforms. If it's not on one and you want to find it, then let me know and I can look into it.
Yeah. Are we on YouTube now?
Yeah. We're on the E14 YouTube channel now.
Cool. All the best Star Wars shows are.
Well, everything. I think all the best. Everything is.
Yeah.
There's so much
great
stuff.
Monopoly on good.
Wow, that's a ballsy slogan if ever I heard one. A monopoly on good. I think Hasbro would have something to say about that. So the place to get in touch if you want to email in is podcast@emotionally14.com. Or, as I say, talkstarwarsinfo@gmail still works. If you want to do it that way, you can. If you want to contribute monetarily, let's say for argument's sake, you're not a fan of the mid-roll ads, that sort of thing. Pre-roll, post-roll, not a fan. Fair enough.
I'm not a fan of them when they're kicking after the opening 10 seconds.
Yeah, I'm not sure why that's happening.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I don't have much control over that.
I wasn't accusing you of anything.
No, I know, that's fair enough.
You can tell when I'm accusing you of stuff because I stare pointedly.
Yes, this is true. So if you want to contribute monetarily, in exchange for that, via patreon.com/talkstarwars, you can get an ad-free version of the show.
Brilliant.
Which is otherwise, it's exactly the same show you get on the main feed, except with no ads. You also get a week's head start on... so you get a 2 days head start on the main show. You get that on a UK Saturday rather than UK Monday. Obviously, your time zone may vary, in which case you might get it Friday night or Saturday afternoon, depending on where you are in the world.
Yeah.
You also get a week's head start on any additional shows like TSW Comics or The Roundtable.
Superb.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really go wrong.
I always like it when I get tweets on a Saturday telling me that they really agree with me or that something I said was really, really funny. Because between me recording the show and me hearing the show again on a Monday morning,
everything's
I
gone.
can't remember what I've said.
Yeah, totally.
So I just
I'm
get these
exactly
really
the same.
vague, obfuscated tweets, just like, yeah, totally agree. That was really funny. I was like, what?
What was?
I was like, did I have a blackout again?
Yeah. It's
a
happened
really
again.
strange, yeah.
Yeah, but we do
this
get a lot of
going
those.
on about?
Yeah, in fact, actually, we got one of those today from Dan Thorpe. Thank you, Dan, if you're listening, by the way. I'm not saying this to... I'm saying this because I think it's funny. But we had some really great feedback about the TSW Roundtable, which is about the Clone Wars animated movie. Except that people who are reading on Twitter, unless they're patrons, won't hear that until next Thursday.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so it's like, well done. Yeah, really love this roundtable. It's like 6 days of that. Enjoy. But I say, Dan, I tell you that purely because I think it's funny. I'm very, very grateful for every ounce of support we get from you every Saturday and every Thursday for the satellite shows. Very much appreciated. But if you want to be like Dan, and there's so many reasons. Exactly, there's so many reasons why you would. Then you can do so by visiting patreon.com/talkstarwars and giving just $1 a month. Or
$1 a month. What is $1 in English money?
About 80p, I think.
You could lose that out your wallet and not notice.
Totally. In my case,
I mean,
very
unless
easily.
you're on a really, really tight budget, in which case I apologise for offending you.
Yeah, if you're really, really tight budget to the point where you can't spare it, then fair enough.
Just do the ad version. That's fine. I wasn't trying to put I wasn't trying to put any pressure on you. I apologise.
No, totally. It's it.
I'm a really terrible salesman.
So
this is like the worst version of Glengarry Glen Ross ever.
Actually, I saw the worst version of Glengarry Glen Ross today. It was brilliant. It was it was just on the subreddit.
Okay.
But yeah, it was anyway, patreon.com/talkstarwars. $1 a month will get you the ad-free early edition of the show, and you'll get the week early ones. They'll also be ad-free as well.
Brilliant.
In addition, we are available on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all that jazz. Brad, you're on social media too, right? Tell us about that.
I'm on 3 social media platforms, 4 if YouTube counts.
Yeah. Okay. So tell us about that.
Cool. Well, first of all, if you want to be my friend and keep up with all of the weird stuff I get up to, then you can add me on facebook.com/BradHarmerBarnes. If you want occasional verbal outbursts, then you can follow me on Twitter @RealBradHB. If you want semi-frequent photo updates of all the kind of behind-the-scenes of various projects I'm working on, then you can follow me on Instagram at the same address, which is @RealBradHB. I also, for Emotionally 14, do a Star Wars tabletop gaming series called Fire When Ready,
yeah, you do.
which you can find on emotionally14.com or on their YouTube channel, which is mainly centered around Star Wars Legion, but we also cover Star Wars Armada and Star Wars Rebellion as well, and we will be covering Star Wars Outer Rim when that drops later on this year.
Nice. So is that all the social media stuff you want to plug?
I'm on Vero, but I can't remember if anyone else is.
Fair. You have books as well, right?
Thank you, manager. Yes, you can also buy my books on Amazon, which you should probably do. What's the best place for people to buy those from, actually?
If you go if you want to do it via Emotionally 14, you can use
probably best.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, while you're there, you can go to there's a Team E14 page, and they should be linked underneath your entry. There should be links to all of those. If there aren't, then you can go from there and get them. But that's like a really nice way of doing it, because you get your standard.
You get your cut. Amazon gets their cut.
Yeah, there's a little bit of love for E14's way for such the nice gesture of bringing people along to buy books, and then you get
check out my historical horror fiction.
Exactly. Yeah, and I've I can hardly recommend them, having read them myself.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I should probably write another one.
I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
So I'm on social media as well.
Are you really?
Yeah. So you can find me on Twitter and Instagram @RobWadeVision. And also, if you interact with either Talk Star Wars or Emotionally 14 on Twitter and Instagram, there's not 100% chance you're talking to me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's because it's
awesome.
me. It's me doing that. So Rob Wade Vision, Talk Star Wars, and Emotionally 14 on Twitter and Instagram. Get in touch. Feel free. And obviously, emotionally14.com is the website where it all happens.
That's it. Everything is. And we're getting daily updates Monday to Friday now.
Pretty consistently, yeah.
Yeah.
Some weeks there are as many as 10 content posts a week. So
if you're bored at work, emotionally14.com is the place to be. So it really
is
something
good
to keep you entertained.
Oh, yes. And in fact, there's a really nice little widget on the side that generates a random article for you. So feel free to...
like one from the archive, not a random article.
Yeah, basically just pick something
use a random word strung together.
Yeah, no, I mean, to be fair, I've read worse, but... but no, there's a widget on the side that will just drum up a random article every time you refresh the page.
Cool.
So, that's a nice little thing if you want to do that. I feel like I'm forgetting something. I'm coming to the Commonwealth, but I feel like I'm forgetting something else. I can't think what it is.
No, I've got nothing.
No, I think that's okay. I think that's everything.
You already plugged your book.
I mentioned that earlier on, but I'll reiterate. Assorted thoughts on podcasting. If you're an aspiring podcaster and you find yourself thinking, I don't know if it's for me, then maybe take advantage of some of my wisdom and some of my accumulated learning from making various mistakes along the way.
Do it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's available for $1.99 in your local currency, because if the dinosaur erotica stuff is going to charge that much, I can certainly say it with a straight face.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, indeed. So, on Amazon, Assorted Thoughts on Podcasting. Again, there's a little link on Emotionally14 underneath my name that you can think. I also tweet out about it fairly regularly, so you can find it on there. I think it's my pinned tweet, actually, on my Rob Wade Vision Twitter account. So feel free to make use of that. So Talk Star Wars, in addition to being part of Emotionally 14, is also the one of the spearheading podcasts of the Star Wars Commonwealth Podcast Network. So I need to pull up my list because I'm still adjusting to the recent change of scenery where we've had come-ins and go-ins.
You can't keep them.
There are currently 9 fantastic shows on the network.
Yeah, that's enough.
So it may well be. I mean, we're not in any desperate rush to staff up just for the sake of.
Yeah, I'm taking.
Yeah. So in addition to Talk Star Wars, you can also enjoy the wonderful Tumbling Saber.
You can. I like that one.
The fantastic Generation X-Wing.
Yeah, they're good.
The excellent Nerd Room. The hilarious...
I've been for a while, actually. I need to catch up with them.
They are doing... They've had a bit of chaos in their... and obviously, not so much in the show is steady, but they're all expecting children within a short space of time. So
I'm also doing a Wheel of Time audio book at the moment, so nothing else is getting a look in for another 38 hours. Yeah.
That is fair. Yeah. So the fantastic Nerd Room, the hilarious Rogue Squadron podcast.
Yeah.
The lovely San Diego Sabres radio podcast.
Bonkers.
The wonderful Tatooine Sons.
Yeah, love them.
The excellent Retro Inc. Obviously, we are very grateful to their loaning us Andy.
Yeah, he's a good kid.
Yeah.
He doesn't like General Grievous, but apart from that, he's a good kid.
And the fantastic and new Sandcrawler podcast.
Yes, love him.
Yeah. Incidentally, on a Commonwealth-related note, I'm going to congratulate San Diego Sabres for reaching 100 episodes last week. Yeah, so it's a hearty achievement that I hope to one day emulate with some of the other enterprises. But Steve and the guys, very well done for reaching 100 episodes. And here's looking forward very much to 100 more.
Yes.
So all of the shows that I mentioned just now, as well as all their little additional productions, the Patreons and all that jazz, can be found on the web at StarWarsCommonwealth.com, where you can find all the latest episodes of each show and take your first steps into a larger world. Thank you very much, as always, for listening to Talk Star Wars this week for episode 159. We will see you next week for episode 160. In the meantime, be good to each other. And may the Force be with you.
Boy.